What's up, Hoof listeners? Welcome in. Welcome in. We got to make this show super quick. Anthony's about to have a baby any minute, so we got to get in, get out. We'll still give you the full hour, but just know that Anthony could just run away at any time.
That's right. Yeah. 24 to 48 hours from now, we should definitely have a baby. So it could be any minute, though. So, yeah, well, hopefully we get through the show and all goes smoothly and, baby comes out happy and healthy. But we are excited. The time is now. So, yeah, we didn't know this week. I could have left you hanging on Tuesday, too, but we made it through.
Yes,
so
your life's about to change any second now. So
that's right. We'll see how it goes, but it's coming.
Well, hopefully you can stick it through, because if I have to do this solo, it's going to be a little rough for the listener,
Without my picks and my analysis, yeah, you're right. It's not. And we got to talk, obviously, that big Bills game this weekend. Cowboys coming to town, and
three Saturday games too, right?
Saturday, I know it's the NFL is in full swing. It's the end of the season when you start getting the Saturday, Sunday, Monday slate. Right. There is a Thursday night game today as well, but it's not exactly a exciting barn burner of a must-watch game, right? Two teams that are basically totally eliminated. So
right, backup quarterbacks, like the whole thing. Hate to see Justin Herbert down, but we'll see what Easton Stick has. I mean, it is kind of fun. It's almost like preseason when you're evaluating a quarterback, basically.
That's right.
Like, is this good or not, right? So it's somewhat fun.
Sure. Even with like Aiden O'Connell, right? Like he's been interesting to watch, if nothing else, just to see like, okay, what does this kid really got, and can he do it? And we've seen the same from DeVito in with the Giants, right? Like you could say that about a lot of teams in the league right now. They're throwing guys out there, but some of them are rising, to the surface, to the competition and stepping up a little, which is fun to watch.
I mean, DeVito's a little scary. Like if you tackle him too hard, his family might kill you.
Yeah.
You might just disappear in Newark somewhere.
Bada bing, bada boom. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's DeVito, Syracuse quarterback, right? Always going to root for him. But yeah, it's and those Italian roots you gotta watch out for.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to watch a Syracuse person and also a third string quarterback who's playing and winning. It's wild.
And it was re-energized that team, it's crazy. And you could say O'Connell did similar with the Raiders. They've won a few games. So, even though he wasn't lighting up the scoreboard by any means, but it's still that energy that a young quarterback brings. We could say, Will Levis in Tennessee,
right?
Even though he was a much higher pick, that different scenario, but similar, idea that the quarterback is coming in and re-energizing and taking control and winning games. That's always fun.
Yeah, that's what you really hope for, right? Because a lot of quarterbacks come in with no energy at all, and it drains the team. You can tell it drains the fan base. I mean, Mac Jones comes to mind, Justin Fields with his early struggles. But I do think Fields, he's kind of turning it around a little bit. I think he's making Bears fans kind of question, should we take Caleb Williams or should we just take a receiver and help our quarterback?
They have too good of an opportunity there that I think
I agree.
Fields is an NFL starter and he'll have a job somewhere. Yeah. But I don't think it's.
I started watching some film. I enjoy the draft process, so I just like watching who's coming in, right, and how they play and who they are, kind of what's their strengths, what's their weakness. And I think the conversation is going to be. I mean, Caleb Williams, I think, will be number one, but the conversation will be Drake May is just a bigger guy, right? Caleb Williams is only 6'1". I mean, that's. It's big enough, right, for NFL standards. And they've kind of been relaxed on the size thing a little bit lately. Bryce Young going one last year. But I watched Drake May, and I'm like, this guy's arm arrogance is just, he just makes some crazy throws, and he completes them, right? He can win with his arm, right? And Caleb Williams has the escape ability. He can also win with his arm. But, the conversation will be around size. And, like, if you're looking for prototype, Drake May seems to be that guy, 6'4",
I think it's definitely a different scenario than last year now, right? This isn't a Bryce Young, CJ Stroud situation where I felt CJ Stroud was more ready to because of his, build and his talent to play in the NFL, and that Bryce Young was more of a project.
Totally different conversation, right?
These two guys are NFL ready, and they're both going to play with whatever team drafts them first thing next year. So it's going to be fun to see where they end up.
They
And
both check all the boxes, unlike last
absolutely.
year, where it depends on
Mhm.
what you like, right? Personally, I always said I wouldn't take Bryce Young. I just don't. It's just harder for him, right?
Yeah, and
You want you overcome it. Maybe when they get some pieces there, he'll be a good quarterback. Not trying to trash him, but if I'm drafting high, I'm just not touching a guy like that. But I don't think we'll have that type of issue with these guys, right?
doesn't seem that way. It would be an
It's almost
epic bust if that were the case. But the talent evaluators and just the eye test in general
mhm,
seems to indicate that in today's NFL, these guys are ready. So
right. Yeah, and the big thing, like Trevor Lawrence was like super famous at 14, right? Like the kid's like on Sports Illustrated in high school, right? So it's a little bit like that with Caleb Williams, where he's been kind of really famous for a while. He's already got NIL money, which is different, right? We've never really seen that before. A guy coming in who's already a
yeah,
millionaire, right? So the money, you could almost argue he might make more money next year if he stayed in college, but I think he already declared and everything. But it's just funny that it's competitive, right? Marvin Harrison Jr., the top wide receivers, having the same problem. They offered him. The rumor is, or the story I read was $20 million to stay in college,
oh my goodness.
and it's like, how can you say no
Woo.
to that? But again, you got to get to the league so you
That's
can get
right.
paid long term, right? Because
Mhm.
you could blow your knee out, and then you look back on it, and you make the same money either way. It's just you don't want to be the old guy in college, Get in the NFL, get established, and I think it'll play out,
I
better
think
for you.
any player who's ready and is a top talent like that is going to default to going to the NFL, right? I mean, that's there's no higher level, there's no
Right.
bigger scene, there's no bigger league sports wise. This is it. You make it in the NFL, and as a top pick, you're going to get all the endorsement deals, all the things coming your way, and you have your chance to prove yourself. You
Mhm.
know, 20, like you said, 20 million for a year sounds good, but that has no long-term effects. Whereas
Right.
the
Short term
NFL,
only.
once you're in and you get your chance, that's what you're looking for, right?
Right.
So we'll see.
Yeah. And for a receiver, I think he'll go top 5 anyway, which
Oh,
is kind of unprecedented lately. The past few drafts, you just haven't seen a receiver that high.
I
It's
think
been
I
a
think
while.
there's a difference. There's a difference between saying that a receiver will go top 5, which is not as uncommon as you might think, versus saying a receiver is a top 5 talent.
Right,
There is
right.
no question on anybody's board that Marvin
Yes.
Harrison Jr. is a top 3 talent in this
Yes.
draft, if not
Agreed.
one overall, right? You
Right.
could argue. So yeah, he's
Yeah.
definitely that is a different feeling this
Yeah.
year with
But
the
and
draft.
you got to go for it. If you're him, that 20 million in college, like it sounds nice and everything, but you're already a top of the NFL. If you're going top 3 or top 5 as a receiver, you got to take that opportunity.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
don't know what could change in a year. For the quarterbacks, especially Caleb Williams, a little more difficult. You're at USC, which is like heaven on earth or paradise on earth, right?
Yeah, right.
You're a star quarterback at USC, making a couple million a year. Life's pretty good for you, and probably that first year in the NFL with the new team's not going to be as good. Just call it what it is. You're in
Correct.
LA.
You're
There's
starting over.
celebrities, beautiful weather. You know, king of campus. You're the top dog on campus. That's not going to be the case when you get to the Chicago Bears. You know what I mean? It's going to take you a while. You got to convince grown ass men that you're supposed to be there and you're going to lead the team, right? So it's a
But
fun
again, that
conversation.
opportunity, that if you're a competitive nature, if nothing else, you know that opportunity is the biggest opportunity. You should want that. And if you don't, I don't want you on my team at all anyway. I don't care how talented you are. If you don't look forward to the competition, the opportunity to be the guy who takes a team to that level, then I wouldn't draft you. I don't care how talented you
Yeah.
are.
But if you're a top team, last thought on this, if you're a top team and the quarterback says, I'm going back to college, if you pick me, I'm going back to college, you might believe him. Right? Gives them a little more leverage. Like if Caleb Williams says, I'm going back to college,
Well,
everyone's like, he probably will, right? Like you kind of lose a little leverage in that way. Whereas before, okay, we'll go back to college and be broke and, leave this millions of dollars on the table for another year. That's not the case anymore, right? It definitely gives the players more leverage. And I think we'll see how it disrupts the draft and future drafts or this draft, right? We'll see how those negotiations and things play out.
Always interesting now with NIL in play, how that's going to affect things moving forward.
For sure. Which brings up Eli Manning, right? Which leads us to the Thursday night game. Chargers at Raiders. We remember when Eli Manning got drafted by the San Diego Chargers
Said,
and
nope,
just said,
I'm
I'm
not
not
playing
doing that.
for him. Yeah.
Worked out for him, didn't work out for them. But here they are, right? Justin Herbert out for the year. Easton Stick gets the start. Look, Chargers have just been beat up all year as far as media bashing and all these things, not living up to expectations. I feel like the Raiders in this game tonight have a lot more to play for. Maybe their head coach trying to get the job. Everyone expects them to lose all the time, whereas the Chargers had expectations. So, Chargers are +3 at Vegas. I'm taking Vegas. How about you?
Yeah, also picking the Raiders. It's just, no Chargers bringing in a new quarterback. Raiders have at least built some momentum with what they've got going now, even though last week was pretty pathetic for them with the shutout and their defense obviously played well. The whole Minnesota, only the field goal at the last minute there. But it's still, they have a lot to prove too, both of these teams, I think. So nothing would surprise me, but I think the Raiders -3 is definitely the better bet here. Better pick. I'm done picking the Chargers pretty much ever. So that's even if they had Herbert, I might be inclined to take.
Yeah, they've set back my betting analyst career 2 years. 2 years now.
I warned you, man.
So
the Chargers gonna Charger. Best roster, worst performance.
It is funny
in terms of expectation.
In the AFC, the Bills are 11th, right, currently at 7-6. The Chargers are 12th at 5-8.
It's a long drop. Long drop after the Bills.
Yes. All right, so we got 3 games on Saturday this week, the 16th. First one on the list. Vikings at the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, two backup quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Minnesota +3 at Cincinnati. Again, playoff implications in this game. Backup quarterbacks. I think looks like Justin Jefferson's back to play. Left the game last week with a hard hit. And Jake Browning.
Justin Jefferson cost me the playoffs in one of my fantasy leagues. I'm very upset about that. I lost by 0.8 points, and I started Jefferson, who was injured within the first couple plays. So, big L there for me, unfortunately. In this game, however, back to two new backup quarterbacks here, but the Bengals have been playing well, right? The Bengals have been, their offense is still going. Their defense is obviously still doing its thing. So I give them the edge in this game. I don't like to pick against the Vikings, but they're playing at home. I really want the Bills in general, Bills fans want Minnesota to win. There's no question about that. That would help the Bills. But I just think right now that the Bengals are the better team. They're playing at home. It's going to be a tough road for the Vikings in this one. So
Nick
I'm
Mullins
taking
getting the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough call. And we've said this is my 3rd week saying this, but the Bengals can run the football and their defense has been making plays all season.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think Minnesota can say that. They get hot on offense at times. They find ways to win, but I just think the Bengals are a complete football team minus the quarterback. I think the Bengals get it done. All right, 4:30 game on Saturday. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Indianapolis Colts. Pittsburgh's +1.5 at Indy. Another playoff game, right? This is a lot of, there's a 5-way tie in the AFC or 6-way tie at 7-6. And the Steelers and the Colts are the top 2 teams in that 7-6 range. So this one's very important for both.
Yeah, another not so exciting game to watch here. However, I'm taking the Colts mainly because Pittsburgh hasn't shown me they can do anything on offense. I've said that time and time again this year, and it's shown, right? They just are pathetic on offense. And Indy, I've also said, is the model of consistency when it comes to scoring points and just getting things done. Now they're not great on either side of the ball, but they manage to be good enough, and that is trending them in the right direction to win games. And in this case, I think playing at home also gives them an edge. So I'll take Indy -1.5. I think they could end up winning this by a couple of touchdowns, because again, I just don't trust the Steelers to be able to score anything anyway on offense. Their defense might be able to score, and how about Indy's special teams really making plays the past few games? I mean, scoring touchdowns, getting points on the board, putting their team in good position. So yeah, I mean, I think ultimately Indy has the edge for sure.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor out for this game, and so there's no running game. I mean, the best running back on the field is probably Zach Moss in this game.
Yeah.
Right. So that's interesting. But the Steelers, though, like, they got embarrassed on Thursday night, right? They couldn't do anything on offense. They had a chance to go down and win it at the end. They just couldn't do it, right? Physically, nothing going on with the play calling, right? So I think it's a bounce back lead. They've had the extra time to prepare. I think they're going to come into this and have a little juice on offense. They've been in the media with George Pickens and his negative body language, things like that. Tomlin's going to get heat for that. I think they're going to come into Indianapolis prepared, play good defense, play somewhat decent offense, and they're going to steal a victory here in Indy. So give me the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm not even sure which one the Bills would be rooting for in this. We want them both to lose, but that's not going to happen. So
yes, it's one of those scenarios you want one of them to lose this week, and then whoever wins to lose next week, right?
So that's why we said this a few weeks ago. It's literally week to week in terms of that countdown there.
Right. So as long as one of them loses, that's all you can really hope for, right? No ties. All right, finally a game that's not backup quarterbacks. The Denver Broncos at the Detroit Lions. Russell Wilson taking on Jared Goff. Night game too, Saturday night, 8:30. Denver plus 4.5 at Detroit. This is a big game for Denver. If they're trying to get in, they're in that 7-6, tie as well. But Detroit also, if they have any shot at the 1 seed, they got to win this one, right? I don't know if 1 seed's still in the conversation for them, but but they got to live up to being a good team, right?
Exactly. I was going to say it's more about meeting the expectation at this point. You've been too inconsistent to prove that you're a good enough team, right? And that is not where you want to be at this point in the season. And I think the Broncos, these teams are kind of trending different ways, right? The Broncos slowly edging along, doing what they need to do to maintain their position, and Detroit kind of faltering a little bit down the stretch here, and then they'll have a big game and then falter again against a lesser opponent like we saw last week with Chicago. So they are playing at home, however, and I think that will give the Lions the edge that they need to hopefully get something going, especially after getting punched in the mouth last week. The Broncos, I think, will keep it close and consistent, but I'm still taking Detroit minus 4.5. I think they win by a touchdown, but the Broncos stay in it. And again, that would help the Bills as well if Detroit, the NFC team, pulls off the victory over the AFC team who has a head-to-head tiebreaker versus the Bills.
Right. So as it stands right now, the Cowboys actually have the lead in the NFC East. So they're the second team at 10-3. Detroit's 9-4. So they're only 1 game behind San Francisco and Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
So they're right in the thick of it.
Exactly. They could still work their way there, but it's going to be an uphill battle for them. I don't think they have a chance at the 1 seed at this point, but you still want the 2 seed to get that home field advantage against those first couple of opponents, and that's the big deal.
Right. And they do play Dallas in a couple weeks, so that'll be interesting as well. Even Philadelphia has the better record than them, so that puts them in a weird spot.
Mm-hmm.
For Denver, just win and you're in, right? For them, they got the tiebreaker versus the Bills. And whoever gets to 10-7 first is going to make the playoffs. So important for them. All right, on to Sunday. Baker Mayfield at Jordan Love here. Buccaneers at Packers. Tampa Bay plus 3.5 at Green Bay. Does Tampa still have a shot at the NFC South?
Yes, right. I mean, realistically, they have the NFC South right now. It's crazy the way it's trending right now. I don't think they're a good enough team to make the playoffs, but is anybody in that division proven anything now?
I like Atlanta and New Orleans better than Tampa, but that's just not how it's played out to this point.
Exactly.
All 3 of those teams are 6-7 right now.
I mean, you could say the same thing about the AFC standings with the Bills, right? Clearly, they're the better team than all these other teams that are ahead of them, but that's not how the records work, and that's why the NFL is the game the way it is, right? The Bucs have a chance to make the playoffs losing the rest of their games, which is really sad. But I don't think it'll work out that way. I do expect, the Falcons are probably the team that is going to step up there, I think. And in this game against Green Bay, they're going into Green Bay. This is Tampa Bay going into Green Bay in December. I think that is the only edge they need. I'll take the Packers -3.5. I do think, although they put up a stinker versus the Giants, they had beaten Kansas City the week before, so we know the potential is there. If they can get the run game going, they're definitely better off. And the Bucks, one-dimensional, just kind of scraping by. It's not like they're getting blown out week to week, but just not good enough. And that's why I think Green Bay is going to come out with a victory here.
Yeah, and what's interesting is there's a 5-way tie at 6 and 7 for that last wild card spot. Minnesota's at 7 and 6, only a game ahead of the other 5 teams. But you could have 2 NFC South teams make the playoffs
with terrible records, and
because they play each other.
Not deserving teams. The NFC,
look, Seattle's in the mix there. The Rams are in the mix there, and I know they have tough schedules coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the rest it's Green Bay, and then it's the NFC South. So yeah, definitely there's a shot there.
Right. So pretty much every game has big playoff implications here. This is another one that, even though these are tail end teams that I don't think are deserving, they're both in the playoff picture right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Green Bay at home though. Tampa can't run the ball. Green Bay's cornerback's been playing well this year, so Mike Evans though, he's been great this year, but I like Green Bay at home. All right, Texans at the Titans. Houston's +3 at Tennessee. Looks like CJ Stroud not going to play in this game. And I think Tennessee has some momentum here. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on this one? Obviously, Titans out of the playoff run, but Texans in that 7-6 tie.
Yeah, I'm taking the Texans with the points just because this is a divisional game. This is the first time they're playing each other this season. They play each other, I think, the next 3 weeks twice. Even though CJ Stroud is not starting, I like what I've seen from the run game for the Texans, although, again, not very good versus the Jets, but that was, the Jets defense is very legit. So I think that might give them an edge here. And even though the backup Davis Mills is, not.
We've seen him play.
Exactly. He's capable. He's not. Capable. I think he's a willing backup, right? Like he's a deserving backup.
He's played a lot of games, right?
Exactly. So I mean, he's not some rookie or no-name undrafted starter coming in here, right? So, and if they're the problem is they also have other banged up pieces that are, Nico Collins and Schultz were both out for the last game. I think they'll both be playing this game. So I'm taking Houston with the points. I did pick Houston to win the game, but it's really dependent on those injuries. But even if there are injuries, I think being a divisional game and the first time they're playing this year, it's going to be a closer game than, the 3 points. So I'll take Houston with the 3 and pick them to win.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go Tennessee because, there's momentum now, right? There's belief in the room that they snuck out a victory last week. But the other thing is you made mistakes, a lot of them at first Miami. So it's going to be a tough week of practice. You get those mistakes fixed. And I think Will Levis could lead them to a win here. So I think there's momentum there, and they sneak out another one. All right, Kansas City Chiefs at the New England Patriots. Kansas City -8.5 at New England. That feels right. I think 8.5 is right here. But it is a tough it's tough to go to New England and play against Bill Belichick's defense. No matter how talented a quarterback you are, it's always a tough,
Well,
tough thing to do.
I think that Patrick Mahomes has put on his big boy underwear for this week, and stopped crying about the refs to say, okay, who are we? We've lost 2 games in a row, and now we're playing a much inferior opponent. We need to crush them. And I think that's what they do because it's Patrick Mahomes, and he's not going to let that team suffer under his leadership, basically, and get embarrassed under his leadership. He feels they already have been, but I think losing to the last 2 opponents was reasonable. This game, not so much, right? I mean, you're talking about a reeling Patriots team that not only are they unsure of what's going on at quarterback, they've now had an article come out saying they're firing their coach. It's basically rebuild mode. They're playing for their, lives, basically. And I just don't think New England has enough to overcome the drive of a Super Bowl championship roster, right? And that's exactly what the Chiefs are. And yeah, I expect that they're going to win by at least 10 or more points. So I'm taking the Chiefs -8.5 and handedly winning this game. Even if the defense is willing, it doesn't mean that they have to score a lot of points. Patriots defense is good enough to hold them to 24, but I don't think that their offense will score more than 10.
And Pat Mahomes, like you said, he's going to hold a standard and hold everyone accountable. The fact of the matter is, though, these receivers against this Patriots defense is a tough.
It is.
I think the Patriots have the advantage on defense, right? You know, they know how to play these receivers who make mistakes and they're not physical, right? But the difference is, I think the Chiefs' defense is really good and the Patriots' offense is horrible. So I think the Chiefs win this game on defense.
Yeah.
It's relatively low scoring. I'd say 21-10, something like that.
Yeah.
But I think Pat Mahomes doesn't have his best day through the air, right? Because it's a challenge to play Bill Belichick, and you don't have the receivers to go with it. You know what I'm saying? So
that's been the problem all year, but I think he'll take that as a performance, right? I'm talking just like a 24-10 victory statement, you know, never losing the lead, never looking like the Patriots are going to be in it, basically, kind of game.
And you know, Bill's had his spies out for weeks on this one. It's old school versus new school. You know that Bill wants this one bad, so he might have put all his espionage resources on the Chiefs, and he might surprise the world.
Check the air and the balls, folks. It's gonna...
Yeah, but I'm gonna go with the Chiefs in this one. I'm not a dummy.
Yeah.
All right. Jets at Miami. The Miami Dolphins. Jets are +9.5 at Miami. Any shot for the Jets here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the Jets could win this game. So the fact that they're getting 9.5 is way too much in my mind. I will gladly take the Jets +9.5. Miami's offense looked pathetic versus the Titans. They couldn't do anything that wasn't given to them. They couldn't produce at all, pretty much.
Well, Tyreek Hill or bust, right?
Correct. And I don't think Tyreek Hill plays in this game. Not only that, they have injuries all over the place, right? Their defense is beat up. Their center is out. You know, I don't know how Miami rebounds versus a defense that is as tough as the Jets. And now an offense for the Jets that has somewhat come alive in the last game with Zach Wilson having one of his best games ever. And, you know, them finally being able to get both the run and pass going. And Miami's defense looking as pathetic as they did against the Titans at the end of the game. Not where you want to be. This is, again, a charging together of Miami kind of faltering and the Jets kind of coming in with the momentum like a train, you know, and it leads me to want to pick the Jets to win. And with 9.5 points, I'm definitely taking that bet.
And I don't know if Tyreek Hill's going to play. He said he's good on a live stream, but he's out of practice the second day in a row here.
Even if he plays, he's not 100%, and they're not going to play him all the snaps, just like.
And they have tougher, more important games coming up. Then you could argue this one's important too. But I think the big question around this one is: was the Jets' offense a fluke last week, or is that really what we're going to see moving forward? I think if you look at the big picture, it's a fluke. They had a good half. Right?
Sure.
It's their best half of the all season. I don't think they can top that, right?
But there's no reason they can't roll that right into this week because of what the struggling Miami defense and what we saw against the Titans.
I do think it's a tougher defense than the Tennessee Titans, right? But can Zach Wilson move the ball, right? They're the worst team. They got to be like in the conversation for worst team on third down in NFL history. Can they overcome that in this game? That's the big question. And if anyone who's bet the Jets this week has been burned, or anybody who's bet the Jets this year has been burned by that, right? Because it's almost a false hope. Like they look good on paper, you know. At times, Zach Wilson makes nice throws, but it's just wildly inconsistent, and it's
on the backs of the Jets defense alone, 9.5 is too much for this game. A divisional game where one team is playing better than the other, and the underdog is playing better, and they're 9.5. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
Should be more like a 4-point game.
Yeah, and for Miami, can you get the run game going?
Correct. Yeah.
Can you stretch this Jets defense? That's the big question. If you can, I think Miami could, win this comfortably. If not, they're going to have a hard time. So yeah, I like the Jets with the points here. I mean, I would pick Miami to win, but I think 9.5 is a little much for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bears at the Cleveland Browns. Chicago's +3 at Cleveland. Joe Flacco finally got a contract from the Browns. He's been on the practice squad.
Yeah, that's right. He's been
weeks,
reverting back.
He's officially on the roster now. So
even though they named him starting QB for the rest of the season.
Yes, but the Bears they played great last week. Justin Fields looking good, right? Defense played better. This one's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's on paper. You're like, okay, Cleveland, one of the, if not the best defense in the league, and it's been good enough to win them games. However, the offense has looked stagnant enough at times to lose them games. However, and the Browns or the Bears, you could say similar, right? Their offense hasn't been good enough. Their defense hasn't looked great. They've been giving up a lot of points, but then they pull out a huge victory last week against a divisional opponent who plays them tough. This one is in Cleveland, which, does make a difference to me. However, I just think offensively, I like where the Bears are at better than where I like the Browns are at. So with the points, I'm going to take the Bears. However, I'm not this isn't one that's going to show up in my pick six. I'm not going to bet this game heavily. But I'm taking the Bears with the points just for that reason. And I think that they could win the game against Cleveland.
Yeah, I just think their defense for Cleveland's too good.
It is. It's really
right. Good. And Justin Fields going to have a hard time. You can make him one-dimensional if you contain him, right? Force him to throw on you. And these cornerbacks for Cleveland are legit as hell, right? So I think it's a tough day for Justin Fields, and I think Cleveland's going to win this one pretty easily, to be honest. And then they do have the 1-game lead on all the other teams in the AFC, so they have the 5 seed right now in the first wild card spot. So I think they know what's at stake here, and I think after this week they have 3 AFC games, right? At Houston, Jets go to Cleveland, and then they're at the Bengals. So it looks like Cleveland's going to get in.
Yes, it does.
So this should be a win if you're a playoff team. All right, New York Giants at the New Orleans Saints. Giants are +6 at New Orleans. Big game for the Saints here, right?
Yeah, huge. We talked about both of these teams in aspects at the beginning, right? DeVito, hot as heck coming in, really has changed the energy on the team, I'd say, right? Like he went from being a guy they wouldn't even let throw the ball to throwing 3 touchdowns and coming back and winning games. It's been electric and fun for the New York Giants and a fun team to watch. And that's a good place to be because they don't really have much to lose, right? They were basically cast aside and said they're out of it. But if you look at the graphic, they're still in the hunt in the playoff picture. So I do think that energy carries over into the next game. And although this game is in New Orleans, the Saints kind of have had opportunity after opportunity, week after week, to really put their stamp on it and say, we are the best team in our division and we are going to be who makes the playoffs. And they faltered and they haven't been able to do that. And I haven't liked what I've seen from them. So I don't know if I can trust the Saints. I picked the Giants last week, right? I told you the Giants were going to beat Green Bay and everybody thought that was crazy, but they did. And now I'm thinking they could capitalize on that momentum. The Giants defense is playing very well. That D-line is no joke. And I think that could give the Saints some fits. So I'm definitely taking the Giants with the points. Giants +6 makes sense to me. The only question to me is, will it be good enough to win the game? And there, I think I'm still going to stick with the Saints to eke out a victory. But man, I want to pick the Giants on the energy and momentum alone. Yeah, being at home is a big deal for the Saints.
Yeah, I think so. And they know what's at stake, right? They're still in it. They could win the division or they could miss the playoffs completely. But the big thing for the Saints is they play Thursday at the Rams, which the Rams have been playing good. This game's easy for them to overlook. Right. So you really got to pay attention to that. The Giants are much better than what their record shows, right? Mm-hmm. I think they're, like you said, great defensive front. Dable can always dial up a play. Saquon Barkley's been playing well. So this does feel like a game where the Giants could sneak out a victory here.
Yeah.
And then it gets real tough for the Saints. Not looking good, right? You got the Rams Thursday. That's in LA. And then they face the Buccaneers and the Falcons as the last 2 for the division. So This one's important, but I think they're looking ahead, and I think they're going to overlook this. Giants sneak in a victory.
More DeVito, baby. Come on. Faison, let's go.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with that guy. You don't want to disappear in the Newark garbage system.
Bada bing, bada boom.
All right, Falcons at Panthers. Atlanta -3 at Carolina. Heard on the radio today, Fox Sports Radio, that tickets are 75 cents for the 500 section in Carolina.
Wow.
Should we buy one of those? I mean,
yeah, I could go to that game for 75 cents. Jesus. Nobody wants to see that team. I mean, come on, they're not that bad, are they? You got talent there. You got some
one victory
pieces
all year. I mean, look, I understand rookie quarterback, rebuild year, but one win with the first pick overall in the draft, not a good look.
Yeah, but you're talking to Bills fans here, right? I've been to, I know you have too, games at the end of seasons where we're already out of it and everything, and it's negative 20 degrees outside, and we still go to the game to support our team, and we still think we're going to win no matter who the opponent is or how much better they are than us. So I guess I don't sympathize with a fan base saying, well, we only have one win, when you still have Bryce Young, you still have young talent to evaluate there. You've got to show up for Bryce your team Young, at least.
DJ Moore. Yeah.
I mean, come on. Moore you shipped, but yeah, I mean, you got to figure out.
All right.
Yeah, they had it. It was incentive last year. You've got Chuba Hubbard. Chuba, come on, man. He's been stepping up fantasy wise too. So, you've got to, again, being Bills fans. I know I can't relate. I do not understand. Does not compute, right? I still would go to the game no matter what to support my team and see those players play. However, I do think the advantage in this game is to the Falcons, right? And they're falling into a good opportunity here by playing the Panthers at this time of the year. Whereas, the Saints have a tough matchup versus a trending up Giants team. The Falcons have a much more easier path this week. And I think that's going to be a victory for them, probably by 2 or more scores in Carolina even. So, I like Atlanta -3. I think this could be another opportunity for the Falcons to get things going, although we've seen that kind of happen. And then they take 2 steps back and then they take a step forward. So hopefully we'll see, my expectations aren't high for Desmond Ridder anymore, but I do think he has enough to get it done. We've seen a couple big plays from Kyle Pitts now, and the receivers there, and the run game obviously has to get going.
Right, they got a lot of pieces. It's just the quarterback.
It's severely underwhelming, right? Like you really gotta, you've got to get it together. And I think this is an opportunity for them to showcase that. And Falcons by 2 or more scores.
Yeah, and I don't know where the 75 cents thing's coming from. I'm looking at Carolina Panthers NFL ticket exchange, $56 for a ticket.
That's still not bad.
I mean, there's so many sources out there, and a lot of them are like third party. So there's they raised the
rate.
They
found the cheapest of the cheapest.
Yeah, somebody's been
reported on it. Yeah.
And then it blows up. But yeah, I like Atlanta. This is a must win for Atlanta, right?
Absolutely.
I think they're the best team in the NFC South. So I think ultimately they end up winning the division. But, this is one you got to have if that's the case, right? So this will be a good head start for them. All right, Washington at the LA Rams. Washington +6.5 at LA. Rams been playing really good lately. They look like a playoff team.
Absolutely.
Commanders, on the other hand, they've completely given up at this point, right? And I think they were a pretty good team this year.
Right.
It's completely fallen off at this point.
Well, we talked about it, I think, at the beginning of the year. When you have rot at the top, ownership, it leaks into everything. And now the coach who has not been able to do what they wanted him to do and galvanize the squad, right? And they've shown flashes, Sam Howell, I think, has impressed a lot of people of what he's capable of at his best. And I think that's still a piece they can use to kind of build around and go forward with. And they have good players at wide receiver, at running back, at defensive line. They've got talent everywhere, and they can't seem to bring it all together to move forward in the right way. And that has led to them taking a few steps back the last couple weeks, whereas the Rams are the complete opposite. They were winning when they shouldn't have been, if you will, when people counted them out because of injuries and whatnot. And now they're getting healthy, and now they're playing well together. They're clicking on all cylinders. I'm definitely taking the Rams -6.5. I think they win by a touchdown or more, even if Washington somehow plays well. But the fact that this game is in LA, I mean, there's a lot of factors here that just totally put the momentum in the Rams' favor. So I think the Rams could end up winning this big. And like you said, we haven't seen much out of Washington to show that they are willing to fight.
They've lost 4 in a row now, so it's seems like a tank job. They currently have the 4th pick in the draft, subject to change, obviously. If they keep losing, they might have a top 2 pick. And now we're talking about, is Sam Howell somebody you want to build around? He's had a great year, but when you're at the top of the draft like that, you got new ownership, new head coach coming in, most likely, you got to go new quarterback, right? You're not going to have that opportunity again, right? So I think that'd be tough for Sam Howell and how well he's played. But that's a conversation for later. The Rams 6-7. There's a 5-way tie in the NFC. The Rams are the first team out of the wild card right now, and I think of the teams that are tied at 6-7, Packers, Rams, Seahawks, Falcons, Saints. The Rams have looked the best, right? So I think they get this win by more than 6.5, and then I think they ultimately make the playoffs, right? I think they're the team it's going to get in, right? The Vikings there at 7-6. I think they're going to lose a couple more, and Rams get one of those spots.
They're definitely more deserving than some of the other teams. I'll say that much.
Yeah. And Seattle, we really don't know what. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. I mean, sometimes it's a tough luck for them, but it just doesn't seem like this is their year. All right, San Francisco 49ers at the Arizona Cardinals. San Francisco -12.5 at Arizona. Look, does Arizona have a shot? A, B, is this line too much?
Always, if it's over 10, it scares you, right? That's always what I say, the general rule, right? If it's 10 or more points, these are 2 NFL teams. That's a tough mark to make. However, San Francisco has covered that line above 10 more often in the past few years than most teams. And although the Cardinals have been playing better of late since Kyler Murray has come back, I think they're just so limited with the weapons that they currently have, with the roster that they currently have. It's a weak roster, young roster overall, that the 49ers are going to be chomping at the bit to capitalize on this opportunity to kind of showcase what they're capable of. And they've been trending up as well with, their offense doing what it can do, running and passing, and the defense kind of coming back into its own in a game like this where, it's against an inferior opponent that you should beat up on. That being said, I am going to take the 49ers -12.5. I think they win by 2 touchdowns. But, it being in Arizona, it could factor. It could play a factor. But these are 2 West Coast teams, 2 warm weather teams. I don't think it's going to be, too overwhelming. It's not a situation that San Francisco's powerhouse team can't overcome, in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And they're currently, at the 1 seed, but it's not comfortable, right? There's 2 teams with the same record as you from San Francisco. So you got to keep the foot on the gas here. But there, there's games, especially within the division, things get sloppy, right? Arizona could come out motivated, had a good week of practice. Maybe that's the opposite case for the 49ers. And we just see this with all teams, right? It's the NFL, right? So I might take Arizona with the points. I just think 12's a lot. But I think that it'll be a pretty comfortable game for the 49ers, but let's say they win by 10. So I'm going to take Arizona with the points. All right, game of the week for us. Dallas Cowboys at the Buffalo Bills. Dallas +1.5 going to Buffalo. I think it was a 4:05 or 4:25 game on Fox.
Yeah, 4:25. And yes, I am excited for this game, to say the least. This is, one of the hottest teams in the NFL. The MVP right now, I think, is Dak Prescott. The Cowboys are coming to town, and yet the Buffalo Bills are still favored at home, and I think rightfully so. Dallas has been inconsistent this year. They've shown holes. Although this is one of the best defensive fronts I've ever seen play, they come at guys like crazy, and they're so fast.
Super fast.
Parsons, I mean, he's you're talking one of the best players in the NFL, if not the right now, on defense, especially. And that is a tough matchup for anybody anywhere. And they're going to target the weaknesses for the Bills and come after them a lot. However, I've maintained over the last few weeks and since the beginning of the year that I love this matchup for Buffalo. I think this plays well for Buffalo. The fact that it's at home helps, certainly. But the fact you have Josh Allen, who can powerhouse run the ball in real situations. So if they're sending pressure, I alluded to this on the Tuesday show, I really like it as an opportunity for Allen to say, I'm taking the ball and running right up the gut. And we got blockers there. The running back's going to block for me. The O-line's going to open a hole, and I'm just going to go right through. And when you do that, and when you show the threat of that, that's going to open up other opportunities for both the run game with James Cook and the pass game. You still have to get the ball out quick. There's no like dialing it up in this game. You are facing a very good defense. Your opportunity
They're
is
super fast on the edge, right?
Correct.
So it's going to be tough for Josh to make plays by rolling out. I feel like
exactly
it's tougher in this game than most. The guy's so athletic, he can still do it, but it's much more risky with these fast edge players, right?
What you're saying, exactly, right? So there is opportunity for Allen a guy comes at him in a free rush and he jukes him or stiff arms him to the ground, whatever you want to say, and then makes a play. Sure, that can happen, but
we
you
can't
don't
rely
want to
on
put yourself in those situations because that's going to favor Dallas every time.
Right.
Then the other big thing with Dallas is if you let them get a lead, they're going to run away with it, right? They're going to just pound you down.
Yeah.
Their momentum, their energy changes for the better when they get a little bit of a lead. So I think Buffalo has to hold them in check. Even if Dallas gets the ball first, you got to hold them to a field goal or less, right? Don't let them get that touchdown on the board because that's going to energize the defense to come get loose and do your thing.
Yeah, so on offense, you got to get the run game going, and you got to get Stephon Diggs involved in this game. This is not going to be a game where Diggs has 4 catches. I think you got to get him involved early and often. And let's get these tight ends rolling, right? Dawson Knox, Kincaid, right? Find those holes and get those guys going. And I think if you just play that way and get rid of the ball quick, you can move the offense. And then the big key for me in this game is, can you stop Dallas on defense, right? They're averaging 38 points per game in the last, 5 games. And before that was 32 points per game. It's number 1 in the NFL right now. So they score a lot of points. They're playing extremely well on offense. What can Sean McDermott do to dial up something to slow them down? Well, I think it's like we always see, it's confusion, right? Disguise. You got to trick that Dak Prescott to throw a couple turnovers. And I think if that can happen, the Bills can win, by double digits. If it doesn't happen, it's going to come down to the last possession.
Yeah, and that would
that's how it's going to be.
That's not how you want it to be, right? That's not how you want to dial it up for sure. But I think there is plenty of opportunity for the Bills. You mentioned Stephon Diggs. If you can get him going, the problem is I would want to get him going early by using the quick screen pass, the laterals, whatever. However, he's dropped so many of those this year. I think at least 3 that I've seen where it's right in his hands and he just fumbles it and drops it, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? That play is not working for him. But I think, if they practice that enough this week, if that's part of the game plan, which I think it will be, at least to somebody like that, to get the ball out quick like that. And Diggs is one of the guys you want him to touch the ball. That's why they draw those plays up. That could be huge. And I agree with the Kincaid and Knox sentiment, right? You've got these 2 tight ends. Use them in the run game, which is going to open it for the pass game. Use Khalil Shakir because he has the speed to be able to blow by a guy in the slot, and then you get him the ball quickly. I think that's going to be the key on offense. And the opposite is true. If the Bills can get a 2-score lead, I think that's going to drain Dallas of their momentum and leave them more vulnerable to make mistakes on offense. Right there. For Dak to throw an interception, for some of those guys to make mistakes, and the chemistry between
Bills have not played well this year with a lead.
Yeah,
I mean, they've had games where they blow them out by 20, and that's
correct.
different than they're up 14 on Kansas City, and literally almost lost.
Yes,
right?
and
That's
same
been more the
same thing
story
with
this year.
Philly, right? We had a
Yeah.
big lead in Philly and then lost it. So
Oh, in New England. I mean,
I mean, it's
how
the same.
much you want to talk about this?
We've seen this script before, right? But
many examples.
again, I think Dallas is a different scenario where their energy changes, right? Philly, we've seen them come back 3-4 times from a 14-point deficit at the half. However, a team like Dallas, they don't rebound as well, and their energy changes when they're down, and that's when I've seen them get taken advantage of a little bit. And Dak, he is prone to making mistakes. Big factor in this game, unfortunately, is that Micah Hyde is likely not playing, due to injury, and that's gonna be tough for them. And also, who else is out for this game? There's another injury. AJ Epinesa, who got injured, after making the big play, got hurt and is unlikely to play in this game. So, although we have some depth with edge rushers, you're talking about relying more on Von Miller, who just hasn't been able to get things done on the
a
field.
couple plays last week.
He did. He looked a little better, actually. I was like, oh, look, he got to a quarterback. Oh, my God. He didn't run 10 yards past
He got to the quarterback on a key play, right? And that's really what.
Yes. And didn't blow 10 yards past him, right? And Dak, again, is prone to that. If you can get pressure on him, he's either going to go down or make a mistake in that scenario. So I hope that pays off, and that they're able to contain that. The big threat is CeeDee Lamb and Dak having this electric chemistry right now. I feel like he will throw it up to him anywhere on the field and let him make a play. And again, if you can capitalize on that and maybe take the ball away once, then put the thought in their head, okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. That could change the tone for you on offense and defense. But overall, I love this matchup for the Bills. I do. I think this is the game where the Bills can use their strengths to capitalize on Dallas's weaknesses in the ways that I've said. And I think that leads to about a 4-point victory for the Bills, I'd say. So like 20-24, I'll take Buffalo.
Yeah, this one's tough because, the way the Bills have been playing this year, it's not a good matchup, in my opinion. Dallas has just been blowing teams out. They score 30 plus, right? This is not a team that the Bills usually, match up with. They've been sloppy this year more times than not, right? So it's going to take a miracle from Josh Allen, which we've seen last week. We've seen in key games this year. He's going to have to make all the plays, right? It's going to be that type of game. One thing that's intriguing for Dallas, all 3 of their losses this year have been on the road and on grass fields. And I know the Bills don't have a grass field, but there is a little bit of light rain coming into Buffalo, right? Will that help them? Will that slow down Dallas? I don't know. But
a little bit of 46.
You got to take every advantage you can.
That's
right?
the summer day for Buffalo, and now it's December, and they're getting 46 degrees and a little bit of weather, maybe.
Right.
Not so much a factor for the Bills, maybe for Dallas. I'll take any advantage we can get at this point. So if that's one, then great.
Yeah, I don't feel good about this one. The only thing that really I'm intrigued with Buffalo is they have to have it. And if you're trying to get the 1 seed as Dallas, or you're trying to win the division, they have to have it too.
Say what you want about Sean McDermott and his teams. Down the stretch when they've needed to win, that's exactly what they've done. They found a way to get victories that they need. Now, they haven't done that in the playoffs. You can say that if you want, but when it comes to the regular season down the stretch, they've come back from 500, and looked like the most dominant team.
And that's a good point because they've got a lot of flack this year, right?
Yes.
All kinds of negative press around them, but this is an opportunity for the Bills to turn that around and say, this could be a successful season if you win this game. You're right back in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
You got backup quarterback at the Chargers, and then you got New England, who's struggling a lot, and you kind of a revenge game, right? It'll all come down to Miami, and that's exactly what you wanted if you're Buffalo, right? So that's got to be motivating. Miami losing on Monday night's got to motivate the locker room. Expect a good week of practice. You just hope that Dallas takes a little step back after their huge victory last week.
Correct. That come down from beating Philly.
Yeah.
At home too, right? So that's
but I'll take Buffalo by 3 in this one. But.
You heard Josh Allen call out the fans. Remember at the Giants game, especially, I was so livid because I'm like, you need to get loud, people. This is not loud enough. I don't care what the score is or what the situation is. you're here, you need to get loud on defense. And that's the name of the game. That's your job as a fan attending the game. You can't just casually be watching the game. Go home and sit on a couch and watch TV if that's what you want to do. But if you're at the game, you better be loud and give us that home field advantage. And Josh Allen said that that's going to be a big factor when you're playing a team like this. And I agree with him. You have to bring that edge to this game and make them uncomfortable on offense.
Yeah, and you got to do everything you can because this is season's on the line for this one, really. If you want to have any sort of control in the playoffs, right? Because if you lose this one, you need a lot of things to happen. Odds are you win the rest of the games, the Bills will get in, but it's still there's other factors that need to happen. I think you know, the Broncos and the Bengals cannot get to 10 wins, or you could get to 10-7 and not make the playoffs.
Correct. You know, there's still multiple paths, but obviously you want to control your own fate.
And you need Miami to lose a couple as well in that scenario. So yeah, this one's the most important game of the season, no doubt. And it's an NFC team, I understand, but like as far as momentum and turning the season around, this becomes the most important game. All good?
Do it, baby. Go Bills.
All right. Two more really good matchups to close it out. Sunday Night Football. Baltimore Ravens at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Baltimore -3.5 at Jacksonville. Likely, well, Kansas City's still in the mix, but you're looking at the number 1 seed, right? It's one of these two teams, or I'd say Kansas City could squeeze in. And Miami is absolutely in it as well. Just Miami's schedule is brutal. The last 3 games are brutal. So I think one of these two teams ends up getting the number 1 seed, and this game becomes very important if we're talking about, one of them being the number 1. So who you like here?
I am picking the Ravens -3.5. I do think they have a competitive advantage in the fact that the timing matters, right? The Jaguars are dealing with injuries. They haven't been playing well. I talked about on Tuesday the fact that Trevor Lawrence, even though he played, he was healthy enough to play. He did not look good at all. He could not get accurate passes with the football. He threw 3 terrible interceptions in my mind. And Baltimore is just a team that's going to eat that alive, right? That is what they thrive on. So I think that injury situation is ultimately a changing factor in this game, and that Baltimore's offense is going to get enough done where if they were all healthy, I would imagine this would be a good matchup offensively in terms of scoring back and forth and trying to stay with each other. Edge still to Baltimore on the defensive side. Now, with an injured Trevor Lawrence and with the way that the Jags have looked the past couple of weeks, I'll take the Ravens with an advantage there and able to maintain a lead that gives them, a pretty comfortable win. I think maybe by 6 or 7.
Yeah, and I think Baltimore's defense kind of got embarrassed last week, right? The Rams are good and they call good plays, but going to Baltimore and going in the overtime, I mean, the defense they have high expectations in Baltimore this year. So I think it was a setback for them last week. I think they rally, bounce back league. I always say that. And I think the Baltimore defense has a great week. And I think they come out and play great. So I'm going to take Baltimore. Just trying to pull up their schedule because their schedule is pretty rough here at the end as well.
Yeah, they have an opportunity to lock it up themselves. That's for sure. If they win these tough matchups down the stretch, but it's not,
Well, here you go. It's at Jacksonville, at San Francisco on Monday night next week. You got Miami, New Year's Eve in Baltimore, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the remaining schedule for the Baltimore Ravens is all playoff teams. If you want to count the Steelers, I mean, they're in there now. But that, they decide their own destiny. That's not an easy schedule. But if they want the 1 seed, you win 3 of these, you're in, right? It's probably yours.
Make it happen. Yeah. And I think they're capable of that. Like I said, Tuesday, I do think that they're in the best position currently to take down the number 1 seed, even though my preseason pick was the Jags.
And the Jags story is more like, the competition's just falling down around them, right?
Yes, right. Even in the beginning of the year, I didn't think they were the best team in the AFC. I just thought because of who they were playing that they would end up with the number 1 seed. And the only thing with the Jags is they kind of peaked earlier in the season and now are dealing with injuries and adversity at a time when it's clutch time to nail down that number 1 seed. I think they're
Right.
comfortable to make the playoffs, but you want to be in the competition for that bye week. And although they do find themselves there, it's going to be a tough uphill battle with what they've got going on right now.
Sure, but they're in a position. We predicted them to have the 1 seed before the season started, and this is why, right? They have the Ravens, right, which is tough for them. But then you're at
home.
the Bucks next week. They have the Panthers New Year's Eve,
Certainly.
and they finish the season at Tennessee. So I mean, if
Certainly
you're looking at matchup, the Jaguars have the easiest way to get to 3 wins in the next 4.
Correct.
Because Baltimore plays Miami, right? There's a loss there. Miami plays Dallas, which is tough. And then I think Kansas City is also in the mix here due to schedule. But got to play it out, got to play the games. But it's really a 4-team race. But if you're looking at strength of schedule, I'd say it's down to, the winner of this game plus Kansas City, right? All right, last game of the week here. Monday Night Football, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Seattle Seahawks. Philadelphia's -3.5 at Philadelphia. Can the Seahawks keep their playoff hopes alive, right? Is the big story on this.
Yeah, this game's in Seattle. You said at Philadelphia, I think. But it's
Seattle.
In Seattle, which I think does make a difference. If this game were in Philly, after the embarrassment that the Eagles faced against Dallas, they're going to be ready for this game, I think. And, if it were at home, I would pick the Eagles to win by 2 scores or more. However, this Seattle team is also looking to stay competitive. They had a tough Thursday night matchup. They gave it their all. They've been dealing with injuries. Now they're playing the Eagles in a situation where, they're at home. This is a must win for Seattle because of where they stand in the playoff picture. It's a tough matchup, but I do think that the Eagles are just one of the best rosters in the NFL, and that's going to carry them enough to give them the victory here. And I think they win it by, 4 points. So I'm taking the Eagles -3.5, but this one wasn't an easy pick for me because Seattle still has lots of weapons and they're playing at home.
Sure. They've been dealing with Geno Smith dealing with an injury.
All of them. Yeah.
But what's interesting is both these teams are looking to bounce back, right? Eagles have lost 2 in a row. Seattle's now lost 4 in a row. So this is a bounce back game for both teams, which means they're going to bring it all. I think Philly, if you get Philly's best effort, I think most teams lose, right?
Exactly.
So I think I ultimately go with Philly, better offense overall. Cool. Fun time of year, right? Week 15, a lot of playoffs, matchups going on, and a lot of teams in the mix this year, right? This new playoff format, kind of feeling it out. I feel like it wasn't this competitive last year at this time, where there's so many teams in the mix to get in the playoffs, right? It was a much bigger gap, at least in the AFC. Like there's the Bengals, Bills, Chiefs, right? We're clearly at the top, and then kind of it's pretty set, right? I feel like it's more set this year. It's really could go a lot of different ways.
That's true. And, this is the way the NFL wants it. Everybody's still in it in some way, shape, or form. It seems There's very few teams eliminated with, 4 games left and we're in December, right? It's certainly good for the NFL. And as you just saw us go through, these competitive matchups down the stretch aren't easy to pick. And it makes it a lot more fun to watch all of these games and to be in it. And, what a time to watch football and enjoy it and really see how it shakes out.
Yeah, this Dallas game is going to be tons of fun. Every play is going to matter, right? Because it literally does. And if the Bills can pull this win off, they're in a great spot, and it's going to feel great. If they lose, well, we're back to, is the season over or not? Like, that feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be, and it could be not, right? So, big matchup for Buffalo.
Yeah. Go Bills, baby. You can't say much more than that. If they lose, it's not the end of the world, but we really, really need to win. So that's what I want. And I have been predicting it all year. So I hope it comes to fruition here.
Yeah. Can we not, scrape by? Can we at least get a 1 game ahead and make us feel a little better? It's like every game this year has been like,
yes,
is our season over or not?
Yeah, we're going to lose. No.
On the edge. So
yes.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Anthony's Pick 6. Be sure to check that out. It's coming up right after this. And then we'll have all our thoughts, recaps from around the NFL on Tuesday next week. And Anthony might be a dad of 2.
That's right. I will be by then, I hope. Yeah, Monday. If it
may not be
by Monday, we're in trouble. So
yeah. Best of luck to you, and
Thank you.
You know,
Yeah.
good luck with everything.
Exciting. I
Make sure you
I
get
told
your
Kathy if she's born on Sunday, we're going to change her middle name and it's going to be Joshua Patrick Allen Romeo is like her full
Well,
first
if
name
you're going to
given.
commit to that, you might want to wait till do it before the game, right? 'Cause things could change a lot during the game.
There you go. That's true, but I don't care. It's still going to be. I said if she's born during the game, it's her new middle name is Joshua Patrick Allen. That's her full middle name.
Well, if Gabe Davis can have 200 yards, would you just name him Gabe?
Oh shoot! No, God, no. No. She's going to be. Yep. No. But she will be a Bills fan. That's for sure. So, and growing up in my household, that's got to be a given. So. I've already got Logan.
Yeah,
He
well.
sings the shout song and everything. You know, he'll be 3 in January. And
Well, I used
you
to
know.
say, like, why would you do that to a kid, right? But back in
Now
the
it's a
drought
good
days,
time. That's
now it's
right.
like, okay, yeah, and, that's a good idea. at
My
this
nephew chose to be a Bills fan rather than be a Giants fan because
point.
the Bills are good right now, better
Hey.
than the Giants. Yeah.
Love it.
And he got Josh Allen's autograph at training camp, which also
That'll
helps.
do it. Yeah. That would do it for sure. All right.
Anyway.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Thanks for kicking it with us.